Hey there, if you want to get your iFootage Shark Slider Nano 2 set up super quickly, this is the video for you. Let's get this box open and I'll show you what's inside. This is the longer version, but this video also applies to the shorter version. Comes with a nice carrying case. The bag is nicely designed, it keeps the slider secure. Got this Velcro section here, keeping everything in place. When you take it out of the bag, be mindful of the belts here. You don't want to stretch them or damage them. For extra security, there's two Velcro straps. Also got a couple of pockets in the bag. And the great thing about these sliders is they come with everything you need to get started. This is everything that's in the box: manual slider, mobile phone holder, power adapter, quick release plate that goes on there. This is the adapter kit for the DJI RS gimbals, and this bag contains shutter cables for different camera manufacturer brands if you want to use this thing to take photos or time lapses. Let's start off talking about power. There's a few different ways to provide power to this slider, and it depends whether you want to use it in a studio setting or you want to use it in the more mobile setting. The first method is to use a power adapter that's going to provide enough USB power and then plug that USB power supply into the slider. You've also got the option to attach an NPF 970 battery here if you want to use this thing mobile, or if you want to, you can use a mobile power bank that's going to provide enough USB power out in the field. Whichever power option you choose to use, you need to make sure it can supply 60 watts of power. In today's video, I'm going to be using the USB outlet power adapter that comes with this kit. We'll use the USB-C cable that came with this thing, attach the USB cable to the port that says input. You can use this slider like this, just on a tabletop, or you can use it on a tripod. If you're going to connect it to a tripod, underneath we've got 3/8 and 1/4 connection points. We've also got some additional mounting points at each end, and in the battery compartment end, and also this end. So there's plenty of places where you can mount this thing. Because this is the longer version of this slider, iFootage say that when the load reaches 7 kilograms, then you have to use this thing on a desktop. If you're using it on a tripod, then you should use support arms, which you can quite easily do because of all of these mounting point options all over this slider. Also, when using a tripod, you're going to want to spread out the legs so you've got a stable platform, so when the slider moves to each end, it's not going to topple over the tripod. When you're using it on a flat surface like this, there's a handy spirit level bubble there which tells you if the whole thing is level. The good thing about this slider is you've got these dials which you can use to level out. Before you use this thing every time, you always want to check that these rails don't have any debris or dirt in them or anything blocking the track. Not only it might damage things, but it's also going to give you more jerky or bumpy footage. One of the awesome things about this slider is that it doesn't just move left and right, it's actually got an integrated pan axis in the carriage here. Let's go and get a camera set up so I can show you what I mean. Just grab the A7S III. We need to attach this plate to the camera, and then this plate goes in here, but I would highly recommend that you put some kind of ball head or other mount on this thing first, just to give you extra flexibility. I'm just going to use this one I had lying around. Screw the ball head onto this plate. You can also tighten this to make sure that it's nice and secure. And then we can slide this plate onto the slider. Make sure that this is set to the unlocked position and then slide the plate in. There's two little white lines that you can line up and then pull this to lock the plate in place. Attach a quick release plate to the camera that's compatible with the ball head, and then attach the camera to the ball head. So now we've got the camera securely attached to the slider, we can go and power this thing on. To turn on this slider, hold down the power button for 3 seconds. You can hear that beep. The screen lights up and the slider is going to return to its initial position, and that's another reason why you always want to make sure these rails are clear before you start using this thing or power it on. There's loads of different modes that this slider can operate in. You've got video, time-lapse, stop motion, macro mode, panorama. You've also got some settings. In this video, we're just going to be concentrating on the video-centric features of this slider. The first thing you need to do is we need to tap on video, and we're going to edit the video keyframe. So a keyframe is just which direction and position the camera is pointing. You can see at the top at the minute, we've got this little padlock, and that's telling us that the slider is locked. What we need to do is unlock the slider first. You can do that by quickly pressing both of these buttons at the same time. You can see this padlock has gone yellow and it's now opened up, meaning we can move the slider around. So let's say we want our first position to start there, and let's say we're going to alter the pan to start all the way over there. By the way, if you come back to the main menu, head into settings, choose screensaver/sound, you can turn off the sound option, thank you, which I think we're going to do for this demonstration. Okay, let's go back into video mode. We're still unlocked. So I'm moving the pan axis. I'm not moving the actual panning on this ball head. I'm using the panning that's on the slider. Once you've set your first position, tap A, and that's going to remember where the slider is and where the pan head is pointing. Now we can set the second keyframe. Let's say we want the slider to move to here, and then we want the camera to pan around to there. Once you've set the second position, slide across, and then tap B. It's going to turn white, and that's telling us that we've got a second keyframe programmed. And you can continue to add keyframes all the way up to H. I'm just going to use 2 for this demo. Tap standby, and this is going to move the slider and the pan head to the first keyframe, keyframe A. And now we can just tap start to start the movement. On the screen, it's telling us how long the movement has left to go. Got about a few seconds left. And then when it gets to the end of the movement, the slider comes to a stop. On the screen, this 15 tells us that the total movement time for all keyframes is 15 seconds. The little stopwatch in the middle of these 2 keyframes tells us that it's going to take 15 seconds to move from A to B. If you come over and tap on the settings button on keyframe B, you can choose how long you want it to take to move between those 2 keyframes. You can do this either with time, you can specify this in minutes and seconds, or you can choose a specific speed in percentage. And the interesting thing here is that this percentage speed actually goes all the way up to 199. Tap back, and now the little stopwatch between A and B is saying it's 1 second. So hit standby to go to the first keyframe, and then to begin the actual movement, tap start. So that was pretty quick. Probably not ever going to want it that quick. So let's go back into settings, and you're probably usually going to want to specify the movement speed in time, just because it kind of makes more sense because you know the length of the shot that you're going to want to get. I'm going to set this to 10 seconds, and I'm going to show you next how you can loop the movement. Tap standby to go to the starting keyframe. I'm going to tap start, and then I'm going to toggle this little switch on the display, and now the slider is going to move between those 2 keyframes that we've got programmed. We've only got 2 programmed at the minute, and it's going to loop through any keyframes that you've got programmed over and over again indefinitely. You can see it's going back to keyframe A at the minute, and then it's going back to keyframe B, and it will just keep going forever. To stop the movement, you can tap the end button or turn off loop mode. If you want a few additional options, tap on the 3 dots at the top right. You can choose whether you want to move through the keyframes in the order A to H, which is the default, which we just saw, or if you want to move through them in reverse order, you can tap H to A. And if you just want loop mode enabled right from the start, you can default loop mode to turn on. And if you want to specify a delay, let's say 6 seconds, we can do that. We'll tap start. But notice the slider's not started moving yet because we've got that 6-second delay, and that's a 6-second delay in the start of the movement, and you might want that just to give the camera time to start recording or to set something up in the scene. And we've defaulted to loop mode on now, so we didn't have to manually toggle loop mode on. And when it gets back to keyframe A, it's going to move back to keyframe B. So that 6-second delay doesn't occur in loop mode every time it gets to A, just the initial movement. Once you've finished using the slider, hold down the power button and the slider will power down. You're definitely going to want to check out this video next, and there's so much more you can do with this slider. I've got loads of videos coming on creative uses for this thing, so if you're not already subscribed, please do that. I'd really appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.